Man, I'm kind of fucked up in the head. Like you ever have moments where you explaining something to somebody makes you realize or have a better understanding of what you just explained, and just how, again, another conversation about the black community, how dire of a situation, black people are in and don't even realize it. There's a lot of people that don't realize what I'm about to say. Now, this falls in line with I've put the point in several videos, but this falls in line with the video that I talked about being judged for, that which you can't control, right? How people look at you and they look at your family and where you come from and decide whether they want to get involved in that. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of black people can't build wealth, right? Because even if you get a black person that's high value, since we're using that term, and they're making a lot of money, they went to such and such a school, they're doing big things and everything else like that. The problem that will arise is, if they go and they get with somebody who, or even themselves, if they have family members, that are messed up, or if they marry somebody who's got family members who are messed up, and then you get into the helping Keisha with her baby, getting Jamal out of jail, fronting people some money because they need money for this, or their car broke down, or they need new tires for their car, or, all type of stuff, trying to, pay for, nieces and nephews and trying to give them stuff. And, especially with black people, they'll look at you like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Right? Especially if you're disciplined and you don't have any kids and they got kids and you got all the money, and, they'll literally look at you like you supposed to help them out because you got it like that, and they don't, completely overlooking the fact that you got it like that because you had discipline, because you didn't go off and have multiple kids, right? Multiple mouths to feed. Right? So I talked about that. I talked about, when I see these other, communities, namely Indians, since that's what I'm around most of the time. I'm talking households where literally, there's 4 or 5 children, and 3 out of the 4 or 4 out of the 5 all are making $200,000 or more. I shit you not. I'm not even joking when I say that. Everybody's got a professional degree. Everybody's just doing big things. And then not only that, who they marry also are high value people. Like, the wife is making 150, or the dude's making, 300. I know I said 200, but I'm just saying, like, it's all in that ballpark. It's all in that ballpark, at 200, 150 to $200,000 ballpark. I think one of my man's sisters, his sister's making 250, right? The one that works for Goldman Sachs, right? And I believe the other one works for Merrill Lynch. I mean, it's making stupid money, right? And their partners, making money. I think only one of them didn't marry a guy that was making a whole bunch of money. He was kind of riding off of the coattails of his family, but then, the economy fell through. So, they ended up having some turmoil. But again, it goes back to what I always said about dudes being ahead. I'm like, you riding your daddy's little coattails, but, she's the one with the degrees, the kick-ass degrees in education. And, not to get in their business, but I believe they had, some marriage turmoil at one point in time over what? Money. It's always over money. But anyway, money or infidelity, one of the two. But I'm saying, when you get into these, these sort of families, if you ever drive through your nearest prestigious town. Like I said before, like, that's not a community that was built for single mothers. There's structure there. There's judging there. There's rules and regulations there, right? You know, these are the type of situations you don't go and fuck around and play with grandma's figurines. You got to follow the rules. You see? But anyway, I overheard a conversation of some young boys, some young black men. And they were talking about women and the problems they were having with women. No surprise, can't throw a rock without hitting a single mother. But this conversation is not about single mothers. This conversation is about something that everybody overlooks and doesn't, discuss enough. I don't hear enough black people discussing it. And when I laid it out to them, it made me even realize how fucked up the situation is. Okay, going back to why communities are important, why structure is important, why legacies and generational wealth are important. With all the excuses black people always about the money. I'm gonna demonstrate to you just how important the money is and why it's all about the money. Okay, so one of the young men made the point that yeah, man, if a woman is 29 and she ain't got no kids, or if a woman is 29 and she's not married, something's wrong with her. That Uncle Ruckus talking point, right? I don't know if you saw the Boondocks episode with Uncle Ruckus, and they had the black woman that was perfect, and Aaron Magruder was trying to show like you throwing away a good chick because you all caught up with the stereotypes and everything, right? So I had to interject, and I was like, not necessarily, man. There's all type of reasons why a woman may not be married. And then I went into the whole economy thing. I said, look, the number one reason why young men don't pursue marriage like that or get married is because they're not in the financial position to do it. We're in the middle of a goddamn pandemic right now. This shit is going to have reverberating effects for especially his generation. My generation, we've already been hit with a double whammy. We had the financial collapse in 2009, and now we got this shit. But he's in that generation where, now, like, I'm like, you're supposed to be getting on right now. You're supposed to be making moves right now. And, I brought up the point. I said, talking about, women not being married, and we got this financial issue and the pandemic and everything. Here's the big issue, right? I said to him, who do you even know who's supposed to pay for the wedding? And he said, he just kind of, looked at me, waiting for me to give the answer. I wanted the answer from him. And he said, that, he didn't know. And I'm like, the father of the bride is supposed to pay for the wedding. Okay. Now, I want you to consider the fact that we come from a broken black community where we have 86% kids out of wedlock and a whole bunch of fatherless homes, right? If you go out here and you get a sister, right, who's going to pay for the wedding? The father that's not there? Or the father that's there but not in the proper financial position? Who's going to pay for the wedding? You see? And I'm not saying that to hold that against sisters. I'm saying that to point out how fucked up the community is. Who's going to pay for the wedding? Are you prepared to pay for the wedding? Because if you plan on getting married, and if you keep it in the black community, who's going to pay for the wedding? Even if you try to hop the fence, what if Becky's parents don't approve? Who's going to pay for the wedding? These are the things that people don't consider. I mean, the amount of money, like, I looked up the average cost of a wedding is about $25,000. It's actually 24 and some change, but I think it's like 24,750 something, right? But I'm like, so $25,000, let's just round it up. That's the average, right? That's the middle of the bell curve. Then let's look at engagement rings. Your average cost for an engagement ring is $6,000, right? So I'm like, okay, so you got $31,000 to go right now? You got $31,000? Because I'm saying, most of these women out here, they want a traditional, a big ass wedding, jump the broom type of shit. That's what they want. Every woman thinks that they're entitled to those type of weddings if they're going to have a wedding, right? But we got this, it's not about the money community. And you talking about dropping $3,000 to $6,000, excuse me, not $3,000, $31,000 on a wedding. $25,000 plus the other $6,000 for the engagement ring. Oh, and let's not forget, the down payment on a home, which is typically, again, going back to legacies and generational white wealth. Let's talk about the down payment on a home that typically, the family members, the grandparents, and the parents help with, right? Again, this is why people who come from affluence want to link up and stay with other people who are affluent. There's a whole world of bullshit that people who come from affluence quickly recognize that they have to deal with, that a lot of other people who don't come from that don't recognize. They don't even consider it. People are not recognizing how far behind the ball they are. Even these women that are running around talking this swirler talk. What if Chad's parents don't want him to marry you? We always talk about whether Chad likes chocolate. What if Chad's parents don't want him to deal with you? Are you with a Chad that's affluent enough to pay for the wedding himself? Is Chad even interested in doing that when he could probably easily go out there and get a woman from his own community who comes from a decent family, whose father is present and has the financial wherewithal to pay for the wedding? Like you got women, the delusional sisters out here talking about, man, swirl it up, and we're taking kids out of wedlock over the fence, and attitudes and everything else, and white men are gonna pay for it. Really? He gonna pay for your big ass wedding in some cathedral because a church isn't good enough? Is that how it's gonna go down? Again, these are the things that are not considered. People are not doing the math on the situation. And I'm telling you, these things come into consideration. They come into consideration, even in the black community, which people think is fucked up. Right? But two people who don't come from, a solid background and stable homes and whatnot, they should be more understanding with each other. Before I even when I got done talking to the young guys, I called Cap up, and I even ran this by him because I wanted to make sure I wasn't out of my mind. And he talked a little bit about his own situation, because there was a point in time where Cap almost was going to get married. And he had to tell the woman, like, look, I don't come from shit. I don't have the support structure and whatnot. And he kind of went in there looking at it from the standpoint that because of the background that he came from and his parents didn't do the right thing, that any woman that he was going to deal with, that her family would disapprove of the marriage because he didn't come from a particular walk of life. I know this even with my own father, because my father came from a single mothered home. And, when it came to my grandfather, like my grandfather was on, that wedding was paid for. The wedding that my mother had was paid for by my grandfather. I know that for a fact. That my grandmother did not, on my father's side, did not come up out of her pocket to pay for the wedding. My father's father, he was already dead at that point. He got, he had all type of, issues, kidney issues, diabetes. He had all type of stuff. My dad said when he went into the hospital to, finally see him, on his deathbed, he said that his feet were black. Right. So, he probably, obviously he had some sort of peripheral vascular disease, probably the diabetes. But, so when my father got married, it was just his mother. And my grandfather, quiet as is kept, my grandfather said a lot of disparaging things about my dad growing up, and I didn't know where it was coming from. But, now looking at it, again, my grandfather was on. He was on at one of the most racist times in American history. And my dad, he came from the inner city, came from a single mother. And, my grandfather was like, even my grandmother, was like, this boy's got a lot of problems. Why, But see, then there's the other thing, because, you know, my mother, you know, with her matriarchal tendencies, as she you know, ignorantly conveyed to me, you know, that, you know, she didn't want a man that could control her. So I'm like, so is that why you went out there and got with dad and got with a man that came from a single mothered home and obviously didn't have you know, certain manhood, you know, hypermasculine, not even hypermasculine, just certain traits that he should have gotten from his father. And then you got to think about me being the son, how that profoundly affects me. It's not like I can go to my dad and talk about, hey, dad, how do you start a business that you never started because you don't know nothing about business? See how fucked up that is? And then not to mention, right, let's get back to the wedding situation, right? You really want to talk about what fucking business do any of you women have going out here and having a baby by a dude that doesn't have his shit together? And some of you women got daughters. Okay. How is your daughter going to get married? You going to pay for the wedding? You just going to assume that she's going to go out here and link up with some dude that's going to pay for the wedding? What if he looks at her and says, hey, chick, you got too many problems? Same thing that my grandparents on my mother's side were saying about my father. Hey, you know, you can go out there and get somebody else that ain't got those type of problems. You know, again, you know, more intact home, networks, patriarchy, resources. You see? What are you going to tell your daughter when there's some dude that comes from a decent home and is looking at, man, if I marry her, I got to pay for the wedding. I got to pay for this. I got to pay for that. I mean, literally adding the woman to his program, unless she got it like that, unless somehow she, through the grace of hard work and discipline, she gets out of, the single mothered situation, which 9 times out of 10 ain't shit. I'm telling you, single mother homes cannot compete with 2-parent homes. It's impossible. They cannot compete. You cannot compete with a fully functioning household that has resources. Don't sit there and try to bring up, oh, well, I know 2-parent homes where the family is, in poverty, and I'm not talking about that. That arguably that may be, not much better than coming from a single mother home. This is why it comes down to the resources. What's the difference between a father being present who can't provide for his family versus a father that's not in the home? It's one of the main reasons why a lot of fathers don't stick around. Because they'd rather be absent than be present and then, be the example of constant ridicule and emasculation. I mean, this is what triggers me when you talk to black people and you talk about wealth and resources and structure and community and patriarchy and all this shit, and you got all these goddamn objections, whether it's street culture or whether it's the nappy-headed jojoba for Harriet and Aisha talking points. I mean, you got to look at it for what it is. And again, I'll put these videos out here so that people take this into consideration from an early age. The younger you are and the more you know, the better you can adjust and adapt to the situation. Because nobody's telling the young people. These people are going out here in the fourth quarter with 30 seconds on the clock, trying to win the game, and they're 10 points down. They don't know. And I'm saying, when I talk to the young men or even the young women, they don't know. They don't even consider it. It's not even a consideration. Very few people are realistic. I mean, listen to the women that call in Kevin Samuel's show talking about $170,000 man. I want high value man, and they got babies and shit. The delusion. They want that Paula Patton wedding. I'm like, that was way more than $30,000, I'll tell you that much. The average cost of a wedding is $30,000. $30,000. Now, I don't know how many people still operate on the father is supposed to pay for the wedding, but you can already suspect, how much that doesn't even really exist in the black community. I don't know. I don't know how people, from the inner city go out here and get married. I don't have a fucking clue. I have no clue how they get married. Y'all, what do y'all come together? Y'all put money in a pot? Y'all come to some sort of agreement? Or are the children just on their fucking own? Which is why you see these damn, what do you call them? These damn city hall weddings and shit. Don't get it twisted. There's a lot of aspects of weddings that I think are absolute waste of fucking money. That money could be better spent on, a down payment on a home, actual like tangible shit. I know a number of people, as well as people that come from good homes, that, they're starting to have the backyard weddings, have a small ceremony, I've seen people switch to the small ceremony because they got so many damn kids. They had like the first two weddings spent, one wedding in particular, I know the guy spent $50,000 on his sister's wedding. $50,000 on a wedding. Okay? The brother got married. It was another big expensive wedding. I don't know if it was $50,000, but it was another big expensive wedding. And that marriage didn't even last a year. And so the other siblings were like, no, I'll just have a small ceremony. There's no point in throwing money away like that, because it impacted the whole family. It's like, damn, we done spent all this money celebrating and everything else, honeymoons, all that shit. And y'all, and it helped you out with the expensive condo that you got and all this other shit, and the shit don't even last a year. Why do you think families be like, hey, you need to work that shit out? You need to work it out. I'll pay for a damn therapist and shit. Yeah, because a therapist ain't gonna cost as much as that goddamn wedding. Depending on how long you go. But a therapist ain't gonna cost you, $25,000. And then throw in the divorce, the cost for the divorce. People are not doing the math, man. They're not doing the math. If you are a black woman and you give a fuck, you care in the slightest about black girls, little black girls, and what they need and what they go through, getting with broke dusties and getting with dudes that don't have their shit together should have been completely off the table. Completely. What business do you have getting with a dusty or having a baby by a dusty? What business do you have if you want your daughter to have one of these big weddings? And then again, talking about the swirl, you know what I'm saying? And then not only that, you got certain people now going into for those that already have kids that they had by somebody else and then brought them over the fence. Here's a big fat question. Okay? Who's going to pay for the black daughter's wedding? Who's going to pay for that wedding? You see, going into the whole aspect of the burden, these sort of burdens and the cost of dating single mothers and shit, and she's already got a kid. Let's say she's got a little girl. And then you go and you link up with her, right? So you already taking on the raising of a child, and then you're on the bill for, the cost of the wedding, right? This is what is expected in the affluent white community. Now, maybe the white community came up with other, agreements and stuff like that. But even if you're a black man and you're operating in these sort of circles of affluence and stuff, or maybe you've surpassed the average white male and you're one of these high value black men out here, and your daughter goes out here and she links up with somebody else who comes from affluence, regardless of the race. You know, again, these are the ideas that are out there. Now, again, I don't know. I mean, it's not like they're legally binding. I don't know how you hold anybody to it. But I'm just saying, how do you put that on somebody who's not the biological father of the child that you have? It's not even their daughter. And they supposed to go out here and drop $25,000 on a wedding. As the man, as the patriarch. Again, like these are black people. We ain't thinking this shit all the way out. I mean, real talk. Real talk. I mean, I had this shit in my head. I was like, yeah, fucking wedding is expensive. And, you know, if you get with a chick and, you know, she don't come from, you know, anything, then like, you know, it's not going to be like her, you know, her father's going to come through and pay for the wedding. I mean, when you see solid home, I mean, hell, a lot of these white men, I mean, they look forward to paying for their daughter's wedding. It's gonna be this, it's gonna be that. I'm gonna have it popping. There's something to brag about, something to be proud of. You know, again, they don't play that baby mama drama game. Nah. That is not cute. Not when they come from these sort of prestigious backgrounds with titles and they have reputations to uphold and they have bougie ass friends to freaking, you know, to appease and appeal to. I know. I already hear the voices of black people coming through and talking about how, well, see, it shouldn't be about that. It's about happiness and da-da-da-da-da. Who cares? And da-da-da-da. Yeah, again, you keep thinking that. You keep your low class mentality in the low class section. You know, and on top of that, even if you don't subscribe to, let's say, fuck it, you don't subscribe to it. Do you really think that you're going to be made to feel comfortable in a situation where you're around other either well-to-do black people or non-black people, and they only roll in circles of other well-to-do people, and they're looking at you like they got to carry the weight. They got to carry the bill. Now, I know this goes on in the white community, you know, to some degree. You know, it's not like every single white couple that comes together, they're equally yoked. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they're still white. You know, when you're black and you're coming into this situation and you ain't got nothing to offer, they already know we don't have no businesses and shit like that, and you out there trying to marry Becky or Chad. You know, and then it's like, oh, you know, where is your father? And your father is not around. So it's like, okay, so I got to carry the whole bill as the grandfather, as Papa Patriarch. I gotta carry the whole load, the whole thing. You know, like in other words, at no future time or at no future date am I going to be able to call up, you know, you know, you know, what would you call that? You know, call up your father and have a discussion with him about some ordeal or some situation that is unfolding that's going to need an injection of resources and resolve this issue. That shit goes on all the time in these other communities. Not each and every person. It's not like everybody's balling out of control. And it's not even like they got to be on the level of balling out of control. All they got to do is be middle class to upper middle class, and they can get some shit done. They can get some shit done. But when you coming from poverty, you see what I'm saying? Even if you went out there and you got your education, but you ain't got no man of the household to tap into, people look at that. They judge that. You know? They judge that. And let's face it, most of the sisters out here don't have it like that. They don't have it like that. To sit there and say, oh, well, don't worry. I don't have a father, and my father's not in my life, but you know, I can put in my, $15,000 towards the wedding. You know what I mean? Like, that just don't even look right. It's like when you see these celebrities, you know, they go out there and like J-Lo when she was dating her backup dancer and she goes and, you know, buys her own engagement ring, or Britney Spears buying her own engagement ring with Kevin Federline. And like, that doesn't even look right. You know what I mean? You know he didn't buy it. You know what I mean? He's sitting there flashing his ring that they went and they bought and they chose. That's so cringeworthy. Am I the only one that thinks that shit is just cringe? Women buying their own engagement rings? Ooh, that's cringe. You know, so when we talk about why men, you know, don't get married and everything, and why it's important for men to, you know, be in a proper financial position, you know, and why, like, I look at some of these women and I cringe when they're talking about black girl magic and black girls being awesome and we need to invest and focus on the girls, and then the women are running around screaming, he ain't on my level. And they've got all these fantasies about these lifestyles that they want to live, and then they don't even consider the real world cost. I'm like, how do you not consider the real world cost when it comes to this shit? You know, and then they're out here entertaining Dusties and Pookie and Ray Ray and all this other shit. You know? I mean, let's look at Breonna Taylor running around fucking with Jamarcus Glover, God rest her soul. But I'm saying, and what type of wedding was Breonna Taylor going to have it? Let's really get into the nitty gritty. What type of wedding was she going to have? Who was going to pay for her wedding? Was it going to be her father? Who's going to pay for her wedding? Now, I don't know anything about Breonna Taylor's father or family. Maybe he's got it like that. You know, but I always seriously question when you get these women that come from good homes and they out here messing with men that obviously don't. I'm like, what's going on there? You know, it's like, this is stuff that people don't consider. I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this to be nasty. I'm saying this so that people are aware. And they can focus on getting their shit together as soon as fucking possible. You know, not to mention the fact that you got people out here spewing misinformation and just bad information and telling you about feelings and human beings and love is in the air and all this other stuff and what women are deserving of this and that and the third, and they're not getting into the nuts and the bolts of the shit. I'm talking nuts and bolts. I'm not talking about feelings and shit like that. And like I said, people judge that shit. You know what I mean? And they'll smile on your face, especially if you're talking about hopping the fence. It's another area where a lot of the people that are talking about interracial datings are not honest. You know? I'm like if my grandparents on my mother's side felt some type of way about my mother getting with a man who didn't have any kids, but simply was raised by a single mother and basically came from poverty. That's all he had was his single mother. You know, as my father told me, I didn't know I was poor until I went to college because that was the only world he knew. I'm saying if my grandparents on my mother's side were feeling some type of way, what makes any of these women think that when it comes to their white in-laws, that their white in-laws aren't feeling some type of way, especially when they walk into the building with a child? They may not say it outwardly, but at the same time, you know, those type of whispers go around. You look at the bullshit that's happening to Meghan Markle. You know what I mean? Look at the bullshit. And this woman is half fucking Caucasian. You know what I mean? And Harry was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Between that and the UK tabloids, have y'all read the UK tabloids about Meghan Markle? I mean, they just would not let up on this woman. I mean, every decision Harry makes, it's this mulatto's, fault. You know, it's this half negress's fault. You know, she's the reason, she's this, she's that, they just will not shut up about the woman. So I'm like, again, that's white people that they not even related to. So you factor in the fact that the white people that they not even related to is out here talking shit. You don't think that the other white people that are the family members don't feel some type of way because they really don't want, their names in anybody's mouth. How come they're not addressing this? How come they're not saying anything? Oh, well, I guess the royals aren't as royal as we thought they were. You know, all that shit that white people do. You know, I mean, this is, like I said, this ain't even about, you know, any specific gender, because the guys are just as clueless as the women. They're just as clueless. You know, but at least with the guys, I'd say it hits them harder, or hits them first. You know, just like we talk about with the whole single mothers, because 9 times out of 10, the women have custody. So the guys, when they go out here and they're dating a single mother, like it automatically hits them. They're like, whoa, the baby, like it's right in my face. Where women, you know, they can go out here and get with a guy that's got kids and never see those kids. Where's the baby at? Oh, he's at his mama's house. Oh, where's the baby at? Oh, they're at his grandparents' house. At my baby mama's house. You know what I mean? Or something like that. So they don't come across the interaction. You know what I mean? And I know plenty of women that are resentful of that. That you got men out here that operate as single, childless men, even though they got kids, and righteously so. You know, but you know, when it comes to the cost of the wedding, you out here and you dating a woman and you're interested in her, and, you know, okay, like, you know, I mean, there's not even a man to even ask for, I want to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. Like, there's no black man that you have to even report to. How fucked up is that? You know what I mean? And something needs to be said about these sorry ass fathers that let that shit go down. You know what I mean? And sit there, I'm like, and running around acting like they're real man. Like, you ain't no real man. You gonna bring somebody into the world and just, oh, okay, you're on your own. It's fucked up. You know, and I gotta look at the mothers like, why would you have a baby by a man like this? Why? Why was that necessary? Why didn't you vet this whole situation, you know, when it happened? You know what I'm saying? You know, and it's one thing, you know, if you get the situation and the father's still active and he's in the girl's life, then you don't have to worry about, you know, the other person that has been brought into the picture to support, that woman's child. But a lot of times these men ain't in the picture at all, or they're not even financially capable of paying for a wedding, even half of the wedding. You know what I mean? It's 50-50, like, hey, I'm working class man, I don't got it like that. And they gotta, work with the in-laws, to try to, or the future in-laws to try to get the damn, to get the wedding going. It's not like it doesn't happen. I'm not saying this like nobody's ever going to get married or nobody's going to have a decent wedding in the black community. But I'm saying, like, I'm listening to people and I'm like, man, we do not think this shit all the way out. We do not, it's not even a consideration. You know what I mean? I'm like, a wedding? I'm like, you want to get married? Yeah. $30,000 to start, average cost of wedding. We're not talking about down payments on homes. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about, what community you're going to live in, whether you're going to move, whether you all have your own properties before that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I can tell you that these non-black folks, quiet as it's kept, they get a lot of help and support from their family. It's one of the reasons why you'll get white people that come through and they talk all this shit about, we don't need handouts from the government, right? That's why their mindset is like that. Yeah, but they never factor in the fact that all that accrued wealth from all of the policies that were in place to create the white middle class that have been passed down over the course of generations is what they're actually receiving. That white affirmative action, that they want to ignore all the damn time. But that's why they look, well, you don't need to get it from the government. Yeah, when you can get the shit from your family. I mean, look at the dude that started GoPro. Hey, Dad, can I get $200,000 to start a company? Yeah, sure, here, son. And then his son takes it and flips it and turns it into a $1 billion company. You see? Multi-billion dollar company. GoPro. Go look it up. Look up the history of the dude that started GoPro. The one dude that I would have to say that I respect, the one white dude that started some shit from scratch, as far as I know, is the dude that started, what's that, Gymshark. Now that's a beast. You know, selling the shit, going to Instagram models and all that other stuff, and selling the shit at packages out of his house and everything, his mother's house. You know, that's a beast right there. I got hats off. I got to give respect to that. You know what I mean? But, you know, that's not everybody. That's not your average person. The average person goes to work, gets a paycheck, and that's how they make a living. You know, but, you know, this whole area, I mean, I like, and listening and just listening to them talk, I'm like, okay, this has got to be the second or third time I've heard people, you know, just the math is just, it's not even a consideration. It's just way off. Whether it's women talking about extravagant weddings, you know what I mean? You know, or dudes, you know, talking about how, you know, like just completely ignoring the economy and just labeling women who aren't married right now as, you know, oh, they're this and they're that and they're crazy and everything. Don't get me wrong. Some of them might be. Some of them might be twisted. They might be fucked up. But I'm like, man, you got to look at the economy, man. I'm like, can you get married right now? Like, I mean, that's the crazy thing. You got young men talking about marriage and talking about women are messed up if they're not married, but yet women have to sit around and wait for a man to marry them or propose to them. And then the men that are talking about it aren't currently in the financial position to get married. You know what I'm saying? And then when you start talking about the whole aspect of getting with somebody who, you know, whose father is not in their life, which again disproportionately affects the black community, now you're really talking about coming all the way out of your pocket for this wedding. You know what I mean? Saving up money. You hear people talking about that, oh, I got to save up money for the wedding. We got to save up. We got to save up. Versus other people that, you know, I mean, when a dude is on and he's ready to get married, you know what I mean? And not only does he have the support of his family, because his family has resources, but he's also got resources as well. Ain't nothing stopping that dude from getting married. You know, it's just a matter of, what the shape of the wine glasses you want to have for the table, right? You know, we also, as an upgrade, we have crystal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, really? You know, and trying to pick out the venues that they want to go to. Like, this is and I'm saying this doesn't just affect black women. It also affects other women who don't have a father in their life. I know a number of non-black women who also have not considered this. I'm like, unfortunately, because your father wasn't there, any dude that marries you, not only either him or his family has to take on the whole boatload. Now, if he doesn't come from a background that has, you know, resources and stuff like that, well, he's not in a position to talk any shit either. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, if he's somebody who comes from a particular family, they take that into consideration. Now, it might be easier for women, you know, with the idea that a woman is being added to a man's program. You know, but, you know, it's harder for men. You know, when you're trying to marry a chick and she comes from nothing and you don't come from anything, and it's like, you know, why are you marrying him? What does he have going on? And then they look at the family and they're like, oh, girl, you really picked him. Because they look at that. You motherfuckers out here, you know, fighting to create a proper nest and a foundation for their family. And they out there with the 3-car garage and shit. And they living comfortable and everything. And then here you come with all of your problems and all of your debt. You know what I mean? Or all of your, you know, the family members that, you know, do they even know how to act or carry themselves as a wedding? Like, oh, Lord, do we got to play the electric slide? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they looking at the shit like that. Now, that cultural stuff, that may be minor stuff. That's just like, you know, we could dismiss that. But the other stuff, when you start talking about, you know, again, dragging people down, like what you think? What you think Chad is going to help out, your cousin Keisha, who needs diapers? You think he's going to help out? Yeah, how you think he's going to feel about that? Jamal, he might be used to it. He might, yeah, I get it. I understand. We all got that in our family and everything. I know brothers doing that shit right now. Right now. I know an older gentleman who his wife's in-laws, who she had a baby and he got with her. His wife's in-laws, her sister, she had a bunch of kids by Ray Ray, and the father that I'm talking about, the gentleman I'm talking about, he offered to pay for his, what is it? What would that be? His wife's nieces and nephews, which are not no relation to him, right? I guess all nieces and nephews wouldn't have a relation, but anyway, his wife's nieces and nephews, he offered to pay for them to go to college. He said, I got it like that. I will pay for you to go to college, because he knew. He was like, these girls, that whole side of the family is fucked. And you know what the girls did? They didn't go to college, and both of them have babies now with Dusties. He offered to pull them out of the fire, and they went off and had babies. And now, every so often, as I'm told, every so often, the mother, who gets all of her money from her husband because she's a stay-at-home wife, she takes some of the money and is kicking that money over to the in-laws. Now, I don't know whether he knows about it or not. I assume he does. But every once in a while, oh, I need $50, oh, I need $100, da 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 da, And the woman that's telling me about this shit, she's not happy about it. She's not happy about it at all. And I inquired about it, asked about it, and he was just like, yeah, I offered to send them to school. They, didn't want to go to school, and that was that. And then they went and got pregnant, and now they got babies, multiple babies, not just a baby, multiple babies. And not only that, it affects the family, because you got other people in the family saying this, and again, I had to literally walk a woman off of the edge. One of the female family members, I had to walk her off of the edge, because, and this is what's so fucked up about it, and this is why I say, fuck the people who make these goddamn mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Because it's happening too damn often. And so what ended up happening is, the girl said to me, she said, well, damn, I might as well had a baby. Because, they just get rewarded, for having a baby. Like, they're still good. The people are still, like, taking care of them and doing favors, and here I am, childless, and it's like nobody's really giving a fuck about what's going on with me. And then I had to point out, I'm like, nah, you're not doing bad. Your father has most certainly, helped you out with a lot of shit. So, like, you're not doing bad. Don't sit there and just doo-doo on the shit. You don't want to be in their boat. But I do get the frustration, because it does look like, they're just getting away with shit. And that shit does wear on people. You can't uphold a standard when you got other people that are literally being, quote unquote, rewarded in the face of other people who are trying to be disciplined. This is why, you just gotta let people fall off sometimes and let them be the example. And they start crying, they got tears. Like, nah. No. You need to be the example, so that all these other young girls that haven't made a mistake go off and make the same goddamn mistake you're making, because they think that, there's no price to pay. That's the big problem. That's the major problem. I'm like, oh, there is major price to pay. And you should pay that price. Sorry. Because the last thing the black community needs any more of, in particular, the last thing the black community needs is for these other groups, or not other groups, these other young girls to be coming through and talking about how, I might as well have just had a baby. Like, no, you done fucked up. If the people who haven't made a mistake are saying that out loud, you're fucking up as a community. You're fucking up as a structure. You're fucking up as an order. You're letting too much of the shit slide. You know what I mean? It's like if you got a basketball game and the referee is not calling fouls on the other team, it's like, fuck it then. I might as well start throwing elbows and shit and getting technicals and shit. Right? It's like the shit with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, why did he say he bit Holyfield's ear? What did he say? I'm not saying he was, whether this really happened or not, but he said, I kept getting headbutted. Holyfield kept fucking headbutting me, so I bit his motherfucking ear off. That's how people are going to respond. They're not going to sit there and say, well, why am I following all these rules and doing all this shit and doing everything and whatnot, and you just out here just rewarding people who keep fucking up. And then not only that, you get the situation where that shit starts cutting into them. I was talking to a Hispanic chick. She's frustrated about this. I mean, she called me and she was damn near about to cry. And I was like, what's the deal? And she's like, she did the whole medicine route. She, did all that. And she's like, I put all this stuff off. She's in her mid-30s. She's like, I'm worried about I can't have kids and everything. She's got a fiance, but the dude hasn't married her yet. And, the issue is that the guy's family, I don't even know what the dynamics are specifically, but he has a sister who went off and got with a guy that doesn't have his shit together. They have a bunch of kids. Like, I think they got 3. And they got 2 and 1 on the way. So she's currently pregnant. And she was, this girl, she was the Hispanic chick. She was around the in-laws or whatever, or one day. And, because this new baby came to be and whatnot, one of the aunts, who is like a big, like, real estate mogul or something like that, she was talking about, well, maybe you can just move into one of our properties. And at that point, the chick just lost it. She was like, she stormed out, and her boyfriend went and chased her and everything. And, I know the boyfriend, and, she was just like, this is fucking bullshit. She's like, she's like, we're not married. This bitch went out there and had a fucking kid, and your fucking aunt is fucking offering up a fucking house. And she lost it. She was like, this bitch doesn't do anything. And again, like the reason why she's so mad, and again, this goes into the hell broken family shit. The reason why she's so mad is because when this woman that's like going to be her in-law, when she had the first child, her man, because this is his sister, he went and he was, helping out and everything. And that shit cut into her lifestyle, you see? And so she's like, okay, she was like, I let it slide on the first child. But this bitch went out and had, one more, and now she's having another one. And she's like, I can't do this. She was like, so what's going to happen? So now, like, I got to play babysitter to help out your sister, because your sister and her crusty, dusty ass man ain't got his shit together. Like, I totally felt her. I'm sitting here just, being a good friend, listening to the conversation, and I totally got her on the shit. And she was like, am I out of my mind? I was like, nah. I was like, the fucked up thing is we got very much the same situation going on in the black community. And I had to tell her, I'm like, this is what plays out with the whole, looking at somebody's family and not just the person. It's like it's the added shit. It's the gravy. And sometimes there is no gravy. All you get is the mashed potatoes. And we know how bland mashed potatoes are without the gravy. You know? And I'm saying this, look, the people that are already in these situations, okay, I don't have a solution for you. What the cards that you have been dealt are the cards that you have been dealt. But what I will say is that the reason I'm making this video is for future generations of people so that stop letting all these black olders, not elders, come through and tell you shit that's not true because they trying to hide their own skeletons in their closet and their own bullshit. And they telling you this is okay or that's not a big deal. And yes, the fuck it is a big deal. And this is why. Now, if it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't matter to you. I don't know what you want me to say if it doesn't matter to you. But I'm just like, when you are aware of a problem, when you're aware of shit like this, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just, as somebody who doesn't have children right now, like if I was going to have children, man, ain't no way I'm not taking this shit into consideration. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no way my baby is going to go without. You know what I'm saying? If my baby's going to go without, then my baby's not going to exist because my baby ain't going to be born. Plain and simple. Like, I just don't understand, especially with how I came up. If I can't offer at the very least what I was offered or what I was raised with, man, fuck that shit. You know what I mean? And what's so crazy is I know people out here who came from solid, kick-ass, supportive homes. And they got the audacity to sit there and say some bullshit like, well, I ain't going to be doing that for my kids, man. Fuck that shit. I'm like, really? With men and women, not just dudes, women too. Man, I'm shit. My kids going to have to work. They're going to have to work co-op. I'm like, why do they got to work? Because I ain't going to be buying no cars. But your parents bought you a car when you were in high school. Well, shit, I ain't doing that shit. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding. Like some people, like I said, some people out here, they don't need to have kids. That's why I no longer rag on people and jump on people. If somebody says I don't want to have any kids, I'm like, okay, cool, good. Because maybe you don't need to be the type of person out here having kids. Because you're not the type of person to do the right thing by your kids, which only creates not only problems, for the child. That shit creates all other problems that other people are going to have to deal with. And this is one of the things that don't get considered. You're not just affecting your child. You're also affecting any person that walks into their life. You're affecting them by some of the selfish or stupid ass decisions or sexual irresponsibility or lack of discipline that people are putting out here. I'm like, man, cut that shit the fuck out. You know what I mean? If I sound irritated, look, it's because it's fucking wrong. Period. It's wrong. It's wrong to sit there and put people in that situation. You know what I mean? Or even if you've been through it yourself, to sit there and you've been through it and you're going to allow somebody else to go through it. You know what I mean? You're going to be the type of motherfucker say, well, shit, I ain't had nothing, so why should they have something? Oh, I ain't had no shoes, so why should they have? Really? Really? So why should they have shoes? You know what I'm saying? Like, motherfucker, keep talking. I'm about to put fucking hands on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand. Like, some people do not need to have kids. Period. Or you get the other people that get so stupid with it. They go out there and it's like they can have kids and they can actually support the kid and have a decent lifestyle if they only had one or two. But then they go out there and have multiples of fucking kids. And then all that does is put the kids in the fucking doghouse because there's not enough resources to be spread around. It's like, well, we make good money. I and my husband, we have a household income of fucking $150,000. I'm like, $150,000 ain't that much money when you talking 4 or 5 kids. It ain't that much money. You know what I mean? Like the guy the couple that's making $150 and they only have one child, that's a pretty comfortable lifestyle. But when you out here and you got multiple children, you know what I mean? Like, again, who the fuck is not doing the math on this shit? And then you get people talking about, children are a blessing and this, that, and the third, and all this fluffy Care Bear, Lucky Charms bullshit. Like I just, and then people sit there and, well, you never know what life is going to throw at you. And, certain things can't be planned. And I mean, man, fuck all that shit. That's some non-thinking ass rhetoric. We can't plan. You ever come across people like that? That act like children can't be planned? And then think about it. Your chances are, well, maybe if you live in an affluent enough area, your kids won't be going to school with their kids. But then you get into the whole, dumbass people having kids, and then conveying their dumbass ideas to their kids, and then their kids, maybe they might be, a unicorn and a critical thinker, and they're different from their parents. But most people, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So now you got your kids that you're trying to instill with all these solid qualities going to school with a bunch of other people's kids who ain't got no discipline, or a bunch of dumbasses, conveying their dumbass ideas to their kids. And then those kids that your kids are going to school with are conveying their dumbass ideas to your kid. And then your kid's coming home with a dumbass idea and says something to you. And you're like, where the hell did you get that dumbass idea? Yeah, it came from the dumbass parents, across the way, that went out there and had, kids that they weren't prepared for or whatever, and conveying dumbass ideas to their kids, and then their kids come and running back to your kids. That's where they got that shit from your dumbass neighbors that live on the other side of town, or the down the street or something like that. Chances are they won't live down the street from you, because if they're that big of dumbasses, then chances are they're not going to have the financial wherewithal to live down the street from you. So you don't have to worry about that. And this is exactly how you get into, wealth inequality without racism. This is the fucked up part. Now, I hate how white people like to gaslight and act like there's no tribalism or group economics when it comes to this shit, but this is how you end up with class. Right here. This is exactly how you end up with the shit. Because you got one set of people, they think everything out and plan everything out. And then you got another set of people who don't think everything out. Again, I can tell you that when it came to my undergraduate education, I did not have to pay a dime. And my undergraduate education was $100,000 education. That was planned out. Again, like my father, who came from a single parent home, like he said, you don't have any choice but to be successful. Because what's your story going to be? You came from a single mother home like I did. Like what is your story going to be? And again, my father, with all his flaws and all his deficits and everything else, that part he's 100% right about. He's 100% right about. I mean, I remember growing up hearing that sort of shit. Shit. I wish I had parents that did this. I wish I had parents that did that. But what the fucked up part is? To be honest, if it wasn't for my mother, because see, my mother, and this is how the shit gets funny, right? My mother came from a household where, yeah, she may have not liked everything my grandfather did, but my mother was a fucking princess. I mean, princess. Okay, my grandfather, as hardcore as he was, you know what I mean? He was way harder on the sons than he was on the girls. And I'm saying, when it came to, my mother, my mother got any and everything that she wanted. She was the princess. Okay. And so, my mother picked up, the whole, my babies are not going to go without. She got that from her father, you see. But my father, he grew up in a single mother household. And it's not that he didn't have a supportive mother, but, I guess since he didn't see his father do for him, that my father is very stingy when it comes to certain, shit. You know what I mean? Like he's not on the must have the best. He has, a poverty mindset. He still has it, still carries it with him. I call him out on it. I'm like, you still got a poverty mindset, man. Like you still got nigga tendencies. I tell him straight up. I'm like, you got nigga tendencies. And he'll have a little smirk on his face and whatnot. You know? He just be doing weird shit. He like my mother will not take public transportation. My father, on the other hand, oh, he loves public transportation. You know what I mean? I had to get in his ass about that shit, because, he's getting up in age and you got all these, white nationalists and people in their feelings and shit. And I'm like, I don't need to fucking be hearing about, I need to show up at the hospital because, my father, got assaulted because he was on the fucking train by himself because he likes to go sightsee. You know what I mean? Because he's retired. Like, he wants to go out and do things. But I'm like, man, you can't be doing that, man. You know what I mean? Like, I got concerns about that shit. And he's not about the Second Amendment, so, that's, and then, anyway, I'll get on a different topic, but I'm saying he's not about the Second Amendment. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm like, nah, man. Like, I like, it's going to get to the point. I already know, like, it's going to come soon, right, where I'm going to have to take this motherfucker's keys away. You know what I mean? And that's always a bad sign, because when you take older people's freedom away, you take their keys away. I give them 6 months to a year. And they ain't going to be around. You know what I mean? He's a little smart ass with the shit. I'm like, motherfucker, I will take your keys away. He's like, well, I guess I'll just die then. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, here we fucking go. Now you're going to start putting yourself in the casket already. Yeah, you take my keys away, I'll just die like your grandfather. I'm like, oh, here we go with this bullshit. Trying to, again, inner city shaming tactics. I don't know what's up with y'all inner city folks, man, but y'all be coming with the stupidest ass shaming tactics sometimes. Just these fucking pity parties. That shit is fucking irritating. Y'all, I noticed that people from the inner city, y'all do that shit a lot. Y'all do that shit. I pick up on that shit real quick. All you little fucking shaming tactics and guilt trips and shit. Like I'm like, cut that bullshit the fuck out. But anyway, what was I saying? That's pretty much all I gotta say, man. I'm just, I know this video is gonna leave some people in their feelings. You know what I mean? But this is the God's honest truth, man. And people are not, they're telling people to dive into like some fairy tale, and I'm like, look, the fairy tale is obtainable, but you gotta be cognizant of certain shit when you walk through the door. You gotta be cognizant of the people who are around you, how people may think about you, what they may believe about you, whether you have certain stereotypes to counteract. You know what I mean? Whether your partner, black or non-black, whether they can take the pressure or whether they're going to fold, whether they're going to stick up for you if other family members or other people got something to say about you. Like that, again, that whole taking on the burden of, getting with somebody who doesn't have a supportive family, man. Like that's, again, people who come from solid homes, their family members don't want them mingling with that. They have it in their idea that somebody's either that their child is going to go out there and get with somebody who's either on their level or above their level. That is their hope. Nobody goes out here and gets all their shit together and goes and moves to the burbs and everything and then thinks that their child's going to go and pluck somebody out of North Philly. Nobody thinks that. You know what I mean? And black people, it's a struggle, especially when you're talking about first generational education. You know what I'm saying? First generational education. Like on my father, on my father's side, I have achieved the highest level of education on my father's side. Okay, like when you sit there and you think about that, when you think about all of the men that came before, my father and myself were uneducated men. That puts things in a different perspective. Black people, we don't come from these, we don't have Carnegies and DuPonts and Vanderbilts and all that shit. We don't have Prescott family type shit. We don't have dynasties. We don't come from that. Nine times out of 10, you come across a black person and they got it going on and everything. Maybe not 9 times out of 10. I'll say 7 to 8 times out of 10. You come across a black person and they got a great job and everything else, and you go and meet their in-laws and shit. Chances are the mother and father don't even live in the same house. So you already talking about a split home. Or the father ain't there. Or the person doesn't know their father. Or the father is not in any sort of financial position where they really particularly want to introduce you, to their father. Oh, and that's another funny, fucked up situation. When you meet a girl's father and he's street and you are EL, you know what I mean? And you've accomplished more than he's accomplished, and he's looking at you, and maybe he's not street. Maybe he's just a dude that just, he ain't, he's just one of these dusty non-street dudes. He's not a Ray Ray and Pookie, but he's not an EL. And so, you around him, you talking to him, he's feeling some type of way because you're dropping and using words and vocabulary that he doesn't know about. You know what I mean? So you start making him feel inadequate. And I'm saying, you would think that, he would want his daughter to do better than him. But it doesn't always play out that way. He starts feeling like, you come rolling up in your nice whip and everything. And, he ain't never had a car like that. He ain't never achieved that level. And you are attracted to his daughter. You feeling his daughter. She fine as hell. You know what I mean? She got her head on straight and everything. He did a great job. I'm saying if he was there, or worse, if he wasn't there and it was the mother, and the mother is really who you interact and deal with, but the father, it's like, yeah, he's out there or he got kids somewhere else. You know what I mean? And then you got to go back and you got to explain to your family, which is just, straight up square and nuclear, perfect cookie cutter family. And then you got to explain, like, lean over and whisper, well, that's her half brother. Well, how come they look so different? Because that's not, long story, like, do people really want to do that? Do they really want to do that? Do they really want to sit there and explain, who's this and how is that? Like, how are they? Long story, Mom. I'll explain it later. And every time you explain something like that, it knocks them down. The person that you're with, it knocks them down in the eyes of your family one more notch, and then it gets to a point where it's just like, ew, you really want to marry this girl? Or, ooh, you really want to marry this guy? Again, jump the broom was an oversimplification of the situation. Oh, it gets way more complicated than that. And everything I'm conveying, this is my brain coming out of a conversation of hearing some young black men say, well, if a woman is over 29 and she's not married, she just, got to be something wrong with her. She just got to be crazy. And I'm like, financial crisis, 2009, global pandemic, right? People sitting around waiting for stimulus checks. No telling when this economy is going to come back. And these guys, I know, are not currently in the position to take on a wife. And I'm like, part of me was kind of like, how dare you? You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna flip it. On the how dare you part, I'm like, who's gonna pay for the wedding? And then I started throwing up the dollar amounts. And I'm like, yeah, again, you out here and keeping it black. I mean, hell, even if you don't keep it black, because let's face it, it's not like black men are out here getting with, you might find a white woman that's, she's attractive and she's pleasant to be around and she's supportive and she gets with the program and everything else like that. But I mean, white women that really come from some serious paper, they not out here fucking with Jamal. 9 times out of 10, if they are fucking with a black dude, you got to be in, some professional athlete or a doctor or a lawyer or a judge or something. I mean, something that's way up in the stratosphere. That's what he's got to be in order to get that caliber, of freaking, white women. So the dudes that are up there talking about, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to get with, these non-black women or white women or whatever and whatnot. And I'm like, chances are you're not getting the best of the best of the best. And, the chances are they may come from a working class family or less, or come from a family that ain't much further from a black family. So it ain't really much of a difference whether you going out here dating Becky or dating Keisha. Actually, chances are Becky's name wouldn't be Becky if she was on the same level as, a lot of black folks out here that you would be dating, in the circles that you would be dating. I mean, that whole situation can go either way, because I've seen it go either way. You go out here and get with, a particular, a particular sister, and she comes from a particular background, I mean, there's been women in the past that I've dated, and they can tell I'm square tendencies and everything. And then, man, I mean, even all, basically, I'm gonna tell you, because some of y'all don't know, you know what I mean? You get bonus points when you are a black man. And if I introduce women to regardless of what the race of the woman is, if I introduce any woman to my family, you know what I mean? We go pull up to my parents' house, get out the car, go and, ring the doorbell, actually, or I just walk in or whatever. But I'm saying, they see a mother and a father. Now, we could get into the details. Oh, well, your mother make more than your father and all everything else. Again, compared to what most black people are coming from, they walk in the door, they see a mother and a father. And it really didn't even hit me until, I went to an Indian wedding, and I brought my parents with me. And, Cap was like, I'm so glad you brought your parents. And I was like, why? He was like, cuz, man, we got a bad reputation. He was like, them Indians need to see that shit. They need to see a black man with his mother and his father. They need to see that shit, because they don't telling all the fucked up shit that they out here, thinking and whatnot. And I'm gonna tell you, I cringe at times when I'm around, some of the Desi people, the Indians that I'm around, and they kind of like, oh, well, Pete is cool because, we know you come from, we'll talk about communities and shit like that. And they'll say some shit like, yeah, but we know you come from a good home, or you not like them other niggas, all because I come from a good home. You know what I'm saying? Without even detailing this shit. Just I come from a good home because not only do I have a mother and a father who are, active in my life, but, they both are still married, and freaking, live together. I mean, seriously speaking, I've won the fucking, the lottery. This is why I always cringe with the, I've been blessed, all these black Christians and shit like that. I came from a relatively, upper middle class, household. You know what I mean? I won the genetic lottery in terms of fucking height. And, I won the genetic lottery in terms of fucking muscles, right? Both of my parents are still together, right? Went, college educated, professional degree educated, right? And no kids, never been to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like if I just even run that resume by women who got their heads on straight, fucking wedding bells are already ringing. I'm like, I can't even just go out. I can't even go out here and just date and, soak my royal oats, for a couple of years. I mean, even now, I'm past that, but I'm saying you can't even do that. Because from the gate, it's like, again, just the appearance of looking good on paper. I'm just explaining it. I'm not saying that to be arrogant and spew it out there. I'm saying for those of you who do not know, because whatever particular background. I mean, again, I did nothing to deserve the background that I came from. It was an accident. The cosmos coming together, the fucking universe having a clusterfuck, some star not falling into a black hole, all ultimately culminated to, me being born, the way I was born and in the family that I was born in. You know what I mean? Like I always say, man, we don't pick our parents. But see, when you're aware, and we know what the pitfalls are. We know at this point. We're having these discussions. I'm sharing the information. And to sit there and see all this and say, I'm just going to continue the fuckery and bullshit. How can you say that? I just can't wrap my head around that. But I'm saying that whole looking good on paper and all that stuff, like even the white girls I fucking dated. You know what I mean? They would get all, they would act like they hit the lottery in terms of, getting a black guy. White girl, like, yeah, I'm dating a black guy. And none of the stereotypes fall on me. Never been to jail, doesn't have any kids, doesn't have any baby mamas, intelligent, educated, has degrees, parents are still together, comes from an upper middle class household. And that shit is like unheard of. It's unheard of. You know what I mean? And I didn't fucking realize how rare, that actually was until senior year of undergrad. And then when I got to, graduate school. And then I was just looking around, and then that's when I really started to notice. I said, man, ain't no black males up in here, man. All these motherfuckers is African, man. And again, I had nothing against Africans. I make connections like a motherfucker, with my African brothers. You know what I'm saying? Like I treat them like they're African American. But there's a difference. You know what I mean? They all of them have supportive family. Like I can't even name one that's got a busted up family. Straight up. I cannot name a Nigerian that's got a busted up family. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm just saying I can't name one. Not the ones that make it that far. You see those two things correlate. That's what people don't understand. The whole having, people who make it to a certain level, they're not just getting there off of the steam of their own engine and personal responses. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I'll be the first person to tell you that I could not have made it without the support of my family. Maybe I could have made it, but I wouldn't have got as far. I mean, just the sheer amount of all the obstacles and hurdles that I would have had to figured out a way to overcome. This is one of the earliest conversations I had with Cap. Because again, Cap and I, we think alike, but he came from different circumstances. And one of the most profound questions he ever asked me, and I ask people this question all the time: how much does it cost to be you? No, seriously, how much does it cost to be you? I throw that at white boys all the time. Man, you want to talk about a question that will stumble a white boy? Ask him, how much does it cost to be you? And I'm talking about in pre-success. When you see these guys, they got brand new cars, the clothes, the fucking, the cell phones, they got brand new Galaxy S, whatever, 5 or whatever Galaxy they got all type of shit. How much does it cost to be you? As you are right now in this moment, how much does it cost to be you and operate and function like you? Now, obviously, a person who's paying their own way, they're going to know the answer to that question. But a person that just simply takes it for granted that they have supportive, family, they don't have a fucking clue. Because I can tell you, I didn't have a fucking clue. And when I come across black women who come from supportive families and their fathers are present, they don't have a fucking clue. I mean, just literally, they're just like, I'll get phone calls, days later. They're just like, I just, you made me really realize. And then not only that, they start becoming even more appreciative of what they actually have. When they sit there and they look at their, other people, whether they're in their family or just other people in general, and they see other people struggle, and they're just like, they start hearing other people's stories and shit. And they're like, my God, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what I would do if I was in that situation. I mean, and I'm like, well, what would you do right now that, even though you're not in their situation, what would you, I would just call my dad and he would just take care of it. I mean, I don't deal with that. And what's so crazy is, this woman's dad, her father, man, he spends money on he just throws money away. Like, it's just stupid. I don't know. Like, I have my little bougie suburban tendencies, but there's other shit. Like, this dude was like, yes, I'm going to take, what was he going to do? He was like, yes, like, she needed new wipers on her car, right? And, he was like, yeah, take it to the dealership. I'm like, for wipers? You know what I'm saying? For wipers? And she was, all I'm going to say is she was driving an expensive German car for wipers. And I was like, nah, just go to fucking, Home Depot. No, not Home Depot, Walmart. Go and open the little book in the back, and flip through it and look at the model of the car and go and get the properly sized wipers, whether they're, 19 and 21 or 17 and 16 or whatever the wiper, they come in different dimensions and shit. Then you got to find like what the actual locking mechanism is, because there's different locking mechanisms for the wipers, and so I'm saying, I'm not going to lie. I have my own personal, like, do it yourself, mentality. I don't like not knowing how to do some shit. But I'm saying, I definitely picked a lot of that up from Cap. Because it's just not cool. I'm like, you a grown ass man and you don't know how to change some fucking windshield wipers. You know what I mean? And even this woman's, father's he's kind of bad with that. He's kind of on some, I can afford it. And I do think some of that comes from, because he came from poverty. So some of that comes from, trying to compensate for coming from poverty. Where wants to get the people to get out, they want to spend money on everything. I got it like that. And I'm like, stop doing that. Now I'm the one that, I didn't come from poverty. Right. So I start looking shit like, why are you wasting money on that? Like, we can do that. You know what I mean? Why are you doing that? I respect some of the stuff, some of the hustle that goes on in the street. You know what I mean? I know a guy that does brakes and rotors. You know what I'm saying? And he wants the shit $75 cash. I'm like, word? Go on fucking Amazon, order your fucking brakes and rotors and shit. You know what I mean? Pull up, you know what I mean? Give the man the $75, and boom, you done. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, and where did I learn that from? Hanging out with the brothers at the barbershop. Like, nah, what you got to do is, and I'm like, that's some good shit to know. That's why it's not good to be, just super square all the time. And you don't know anything about how you can get shit, on a discount and everything. You know what I mean? Not even a discount. I mean, that's what the man was charging, but it's a cash business. You know what I'm saying? Not my business. You know what I mean? Maybe he uses that to do some other stuff or whatever, but $75 sounds good to me. You go to Meineke or some other place or Monroe or whatever, they want to charge you, all type of studio. It'll be $150 each wheel. Like, again, like it doesn't pay off to be fucking square like that. You want to be a well-rounded, kick-ass, educated, I'm doing things, I know what's going on individual. You don't want to be this just clueless out there in the streets. But I don't even know why I got off on, I went off on that tangent. But, I'm just saying, these are just these are things to consider. I'm telling you, just be aware of these things. You feel some type of way about what I'm saying, feel some type of way, but just be aware. Knowing is not going to hurt you. Knowing some shit does not hurt you. I know for some people, they're like, no, I can't shut my brain off now. And now I'm in cognitive dissonance and I feel some type of way. And I don't like that, SWP. I don't like that. So you would rather not know and be clueless and be oblivious and just, yeah, I get it. What do they say? Bliss is what? Ignorance is bliss, right? Yeah, I get you on that. But like, I'm like, nah, you gotta know this. The only way that any of this stuff can be turned around, or at the very least, the only way this stuff can be turned around, I gotta answer this phone call, but only way this stuff can be turned around is if, we know, because knowing is half the battle on some G.I. Joe shit. But seriously, is if we know what the fuck is going on. But anyway, I don't want to make this video is already enormously long, so let me end this video. That's my video. SWP out.